Well, I'm back again with another installment of Positive Impact for Mind and Body. I just had this revelation, I guess I want to say, with my angels about the fear and anger, how fear brings you to anger, and how that can also result in depression. So last week we talked about depression and we talked about fear. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about anger. Feel free to comment or ask any questions you want in the notes or the chat on the side. Um, what the angels really wanted me to impart to you about the emotion of anger is the toxicity and also how it can transform cells, not just cells, but transform relationships and things, physical things. And when I thought about this, I thought about a few interesting stories. When my husband and I first bought our first renovation, our a house to renovate, he's a contractor, he's a builder. I remember tearing apart the upstairs. We added a level to a Cape Cod style house. And we were in the throes of getting the plumbing installed, and we were doing everything ourselves, basically. And it was a lot of work. And I'll never forget this. The plumbing piece of it was all in my husband's hands, right? So he was going around fitting pipes together, cutting pipes, putting things in. And he came home very, very angry one day when he didn't get paid on a job that he had been working on for a long time. And people that he had trusted kind of like fell through on him. And I'm sure you've been there at some point or another in your life. When this happened, though, he came home in a fury. Now, we had a schedule to keep. We were on a specific timeline to complete the upstairs so that we could get the CO by the time the holidays came. So this, I believe, was in the fall as well. And I'll never forget him pulling out the torch to solder some pipe together. And literally, his anger, you could tell the energy of his anger just kind of flew into the torch and the pipe, and the whole thing blew into flames. I had to run downstairs and grab like buckets of water and just start throwing it on the flames. Now, you have to ask yourself, would that have happened if you weren't so angry, right? The other thing that was really, really interesting to me, and this has happened in different ways over the years, and I'm sure you have experienced maybe something similar. There are no coincidences, there are no accidents. He was, again, kind of like depending on certain people to give him the go ahead to start a new job. And it was to build a new house for someone. And he was aligning all of his people, all of his equipment, everything. And he was told the job had to be stopped and was going to be postponed for a period of time that was unknown. So in that time, I can remember having conversations with him about, how he was so looking forward to starting this job, and it wasn't starting, and nothing was moving in the right direction, and he felt lost. He felt at rage, but also a certain amount of loss in that rage. And it is also the time period that and it wasn't my truck. I had a truck. He had a truck. He tried to start his truck, and the starter on his truck died. Then he had an excavator on the job site ready to start doing some excavation. Now he had to pull it off the job and return it to the the rental people. And he went to start the excavator, and the starter died on the excavator. Then that weekend, he tried to mow the lawn, and the starter died on the lawnmower. I mean, you can't make these things up. There's a reason for it. So when I talked to Raphael and Raziel about anger, they said anger has the most potential to influence physical matter, almost more than anything else. It has a very dense energy to it. It's a very and we all know how toxic people feel when they're very angry. So you compound that, and You pack that down, and it actually can impact physical matter. So if that's how anger can act on our physical reality, turn things into fire and flame and stop mechanical things in our hands, what is it doing to us in our cells? And this is something that Raphael and Raziel want me to really impress upon the audience for this podcast, is that your soul is in your cells, right? We've had this conversation before. It's in your bloodstream, it's in your vagus nerve. That's your soul, okay? So then you have this compounded toxic energy that's compacted. And when I say that anger energy is compacted, it is of a much denser quality, okay? Your cells, you were born prior to all these weird emotional experiences or tough emotional challenges. We were born with perfect energetics in our cells, right? So we didn't have all of that tension and stress and catecholamine and all of the catalysts for stress and tension within the neurotransmission and the hormones and the gut flora and fauna in our bodies. Now, though, we introduce anger, and that's going to start to transform the cells in the body. I know a lot of people feel like, and this is just one example, anger can affect many different things, but I know a lot of people feel that cancer is the thing to hate. Cancer is this, cancer is that. We beat cancer. We did this, and I really, after years and years and years of doing these channeled sessions and working with different people, what I realized was that 9 times out of 10, disease originates with the emotion that is not congruent with your soul's truth. So anytime we resonate with an emotion that is not within our soul's truth, that which God has already implanted in us, we start to replicate cells in the wrong way, or in ways that are bound and destined to malfunction. So, if people are looking at cancer as the thing to beat, that's the wrong approach. And this is what the angels are telling me day after day after day, that I'm introducing a different paradigm in health and well-being and weight loss that is not currently conceivable to my community or any community. So I want you to think about this. Think about the people that you know who have struggled with cancer. Did they also struggle with a certain amount of anger in personal relationships? And I'd be willing to bet that a few hands are going up, if not all, who have experienced cancer. In my own family, my grandfather had cancer of the larynx, and he had a large portion of his neck and jaw removed. But I know it's getting better generation after generation after generation, because my mother had cancer of the lower mandible. So she had a portion of her jaw removed. She didn't have the whole larynx removed. And so far, none of my siblings or I have cancer. And I don't plan to, because I have had this blessing of an experience in giving Reiki for over 30 years and seeing people spontaneously heal with their own truth. And this is true. The benefit of what I do is the joy in what I do, and that, I always have this opportunity to experience their successes, their joy, their happiness. But it's a double-edged sword, because they aren't very often willing to share that maybe they had the wrong idea about what anger is for. And this is something else the angels have been telling me, that we in our society have been using the root chakra energies the wrong way for a very long time. They were originally instilled in us for our survival. As you know, flight or fight responses originate usually in the root chakra. But they originate there from impulses in the brain. So what we have here is an ability to control what's going on in our minds. And that is the reason why the angels had asked me to create these meditations about the top 3 emotions that get us into the most trouble when it comes to health, healing, or balancing our metabolism for weight loss or perfect weight health. So the the point here is that since we now, well, I think we've always known we've had control over our emotions, but we've never been given very good examples of how that looks or what that looks like or how to do that. So I have to take a step back. When you think about anger and you think about what made you angry, it's usually someone undervaluing you, someone acting in a way that you did not expect. So it's value, anticipation of something different, or it is a genuine threat, someone who is genuinely trying to get you angry. Um, and those things are just part of it. There's the fear aspect of anger, where we feel that something in us or about us or our environment or our family is being threatened, or we're in fear of loss. So anger always generates out of another emotion. And sometimes anger is very healthy. Sometimes the expression of anger is very healthy because you do know your truth and you're vibrating at your truth, and the other person that you're with or people that you're with don't know your truth. They don't understand your truth, nor very often they don't even care about your truth. So that can really be infuriating if you are trying to mean something to someone else. And this is where I go back to our ability to change our own perceptions of why we want anger in our lives. If we're getting angry in a healthy way, that we talk about it and we're expressing our anger in ways that are going to produce a progression in emotional understanding, that's one thing. But if you're using anger to intimidate someone, or if you're using anger in order to change someone's opinion about you in a defensive manner, then you're kind of vibrating outside of your truth again. Let's say, you're at Thanksgiving because it's coming up, right? Not even at Halloween yet, but you're at Thanksgiving and you discover that someone had been bad mouthing you, that you never show up to family events, you're never there, and all of a sudden you show up because there's food and beverages available. Meanwhile, maybe you're at home and you're trying to figure out how to settle into a new home or start a new job, or maybe you're having a lot of significant personal relationships in your most significant relationship issues. There are other things going on in your life, but the people who are judging you don't know that. So you get angry. Now, if you had the opportunity to talk to that person and say, I've just had a lot going on. I'm sorry I didn't make it for the last several family events, but I'm here now and it's great to see you. Be that kind of person. That's the person you want to be. And this is always, 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 always about raising your awareness about your own emotional status, figuring out what your trigger points are, how you're responding. Did that response, the way you responded, get the results you wanted? Or did you find yourself feeling horrible afterwards? Or maybe even more angry because the person, acted out against you? You have to, and I'm not saying this is easy. I've been working on this since I was in my 20s, when I realized right after I got attuned as a Reiki healer, I started to realize that I had a lot of emotional stress and trauma that I was carrying from my parents' lives. Basically, my mother was abandoned at age 12. At age 9, she was in a sanitarium for 3 years with rheumatic fever. She couldn't remember her parents' faces. I mean, that's a lot of trauma. My father was an only child, but he wasn't really liked very well by his dad. So that's a lot of trauma. I realized that I was holding a lot of skepticism, a lot of cynicism, a lot of anger on their behalf, and other things that I'd had happen in my own life. Um, Once I realized that, though, after I was attuned as a Reiki practitioner, I started to really take very detailed notes in my journal about how I felt about certain people and things. And this is what I found to be crucial in turning those emotions around, because I would say that to myself, like, I do not want to be that person that is going to act out and act irrationally in this situation. I want a different result. So I'm going to react differently. And the more I did that, and people often say, I just hear a lot of negative responses to different personalities in television and film and on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And everyone seems to relate to the negative aspects of people's personalities. And I'm not sitting here like being all Pollyanna. Believe me, I've had some harrowing anger experiences, um, but the more I realized that I was actually hurting myself more than anything, and possibly my family more than anything, the more I started to take a step back and reevaluate. Now, this isn't just about practice, it's also a level of spiritual maturity to stand back and say, this is worth my time and energy, and this is not worth my time and energy. So that's, I would say, for anger, that's step number one. Be aware of how you feel. What are your triggers? I was in my car with my son the other day. I had gone to college in Manhattan, and my husband had lived in Queens for a long time. So we kind of know how to navigate streets and avenues and, addresses, et cetera. And I'd taken my son down to Stanford the other day, and we were trying to find an address. And I pulled up to a stoplight, and I said, okay, why don't you get out here? It's like, it's down that road. I'm going to find parking. You go search. He's like, and he freaked out. He totally freaked out. He was like, you want me to what? And I forgot that he hadn't had that experience before, and it got him very angry. So I apologized, and I just said, I'm so sorry. Let me take a step back, and I will help you find the address. So we found parking together. We got out of the car together, and we started walking down the street. That was fine. But I also noticed that he got very triggered by traffic. And I may sound crazy, but I love driving in Manhattan. It's like so much fun. I love the tension. I love the speed. I love the angling for the best position and cutting people off for parking spaces. That's me. I'm sorry. That's just that's just me. But he gets very very agitated with traffic. So I had to take a step back and say, okay, this can either be a learning moment that I teach him how to navigate traffic, or he's going to spiral out of control. So I showed him how I navigate traffic, how to anticipate people moving forward, and those who are not moving forward, and those who like to use their blinker, those who don't like to use their blinker, and how to keep an eye on all of it. And at the end of it, the worst part of the traffic was over in about 5 minutes, but it seemed like an eternity to him. But it was a good example of how we need to reevaluate and reassess how we're feeling in the moment and how that's going to affect that moment for ourselves, but also our siblings, our husbands, wives, children, parents, whoever's in the car with us. So I think that's step number one, is acknowledging and knowing what your triggers are. Knowing that this person tends to really grind you, and having appropriate responses to that person, and not in a vindictive way, just in a way that you acknowledge, oh, that's really who they are. Now, when you do this, I find it interesting that when you kind of take your shield down and your bow and arrow and your gun out of your head, when you take all that down and you just allow the person to be who they need to be, more often than not, they don't tick you off anymore. They just become very compliant, very kind. Or if they're not, then there's absolutely every right in the world for you to take a step away from that person. If they're truly toxic and they don't get it, they just don't get you, then it's fine for you to take a step away from that relationship in that moment at that time. Find a conversation with someone you do like, go outside, breathe some fresh air, grab someone and just play a game of cards or something different to kind of shift your gear. Okay. So that's why I did create these meditations, because it does help you go through step by step how you're feeling and why, and to see if there is a legitimate reason. If there is a legitimate reason, then we always have the option of going back and writing down what our personal truth was. And it could be anything from, I needed to be heard in that moment. I needed to be acknowledged. I needed my feelings to be taken into consideration because they were being rude. Or I needed to understand the situation better. I did not have all the facts and I got angry as a result. So these are just certain questions you want to ask yourself, how you felt threatened. So, and there was a time there that I felt I had to walk on eggshells around certain people all the time, no matter what mood they were in. I was afraid to say anything to them. But what I realized was that they were just desperately seeking a level of love and compassion and communication that they hadn't experienced yet. So once I gave that to them, their opportunity to speak their truth, it opened up so many more important venues for communication than if I had, walked away. But it's a thing that you have to feel out for yourself. It's nothing that's going to come very easily if you're not used to doing this. If you're not used to taking stock of your own emotions and responses to people and things and situations, if you're not used to writing down your personal truth or knowing what that is, that's going to be tough. You're going to have to go through a list what you really wanted. And what you may find is that something triggered you, but it's actually rooted in your relationship with your dad growing up, or rooted in your relationship with your uncle or your, aunt growing up that you didn't anticipate. But allow yourself that time and space to really analyze and understand how you're reacting to things better so that you have a healthier mind and body. I do have a series of meditations coming out. One is transforming depression, one is transforming fear, and the last is transforming anger. There's also making peace with your weight loss. And that is for people who are generally happy and don't really have any of these issues with the top 3 emotions that get you into trouble, health and weight wise. So that will be rolling out soon, and I will give you more and more updates about that, those offerings soon. In the meantime, tomorrow I will be having another guest on, Allison McLeod, who was part of a group of women. This is very interesting. It just got like 1 million downloads, I think. Becoming an Unstoppable Woman. I think it's a fabulous, fabulous book. I have yet to read, but I know Allison McLeod, and I know she is an unstoppable woman. She's incredible. She's been through so much. She used to own, I think it was 2 gyms, fitness facilities, and she had a son and got divorced, and then had to figure out how to balance that crazy balancing act, raising her son and moving forward with her plans to do what she's doing now, a lot of public speaking. So I'm excited to have Allison on tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, Allison's fun anyway. But then on Thursday, we're going to be talking about happiness and how to bring more of that into your life, mind and body and soul, because that's the thing that perpetuates good health and well-being. That being said, I am thrilled to be back and chatting with you day after day after day and giving you more information about your soul, mind, and body. Please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My name is Nicole Fevrier Davis, and you can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nicole's MBM, or you can find out more information on my website at mindbodymastery.org. In any case, I am thrilled to be here giving you this information. Like I said, the angels are always open to your questions. If you have any angel questions for the angels, let me know that too in the chat, and I will be sure to chat with them and get back to you. In the meantime, enjoy and love your mind and body, and I will see you tomorrow with Alison McLeod, author of Unstoppable Women. Okay, see you later.